of our Drishti philosophy is to find that focus point, to get really present here and what's important to us in the here and now. And this past week, I celebrated my birthday and I got to go to Maui. I was asked to house sit for a friend. It just so happened to be over my birthday. And she asked for me to pet sit her rabbit. And rabbits, I have a very special connection to them. So there are lots of invitation points to go. And it also happened to be a full moon on my birthday. So it was a very potent time and it had me in deep reflection. I feel like birthdays are personal New Year's. So you reflect on the year that has passed and the year to come. And one of the mornings we woke up at 3 a.m. and went up to the top of Haleakala, which is the volcano that's in Maui. And just a fun fact, the top of that to the very bottom, and most of it is under the ocean, is taller than Mount Everest. So it's a very high point, and it's the highest point on the island for sure. And as you're coming up, you're above the clouds. It's so beautiful. And as the sun comes up, everybody's cheering and clapping, and it's a whole celebration of the sun arriving in the morning. And it had me thinking of how often the sun comes up and the sun sets, and there are these moments of pauses where we can celebrate these little things that we just anticipate to happen. And sometimes we can get into that headspace even in our own lives. We wake up and we go to sleep, and we wake up and we go to sleep, and we almost expect that sort of rhythm when really life is temporary and we don't know when we won't wake up again. And when we see the sun rise from the east, it's the start of a new day. When it sets to the west, it's the end, and it goes into that feminine space, into that portal of darkness. And these cycles, these rhythms are also the rhythms of our life. And it had me just reflecting on that level of presence, that every day is such a celebration of life and death and rebirth, and that the sun is right there to remind us of this. And there's this beautiful poet and author, her name's Andrea Gibson, who just passed away yesterday. And she had been in a season of cancer for the last 3 years. And so a lot of her writings came from this deep place of reflecting on life and death, and holding that in between space, that reverence for what this is. And so I just wanted to read a little something and then talk a little bit about it and then open up the larger discussion. So she wrote, "Loving my life has not made me more afraid to lose my life. It's made me far less afraid. The love I have for life feels like it is the bridge between this realm and the next. Cherishing my human existence is what taught me that I am eternal. Probably because to cherish the moment I'm in this world right now, is cherishing eternity. Cherishing a moment is cherishing eternity." I explain it like this. You know how some people fall in love and they say, "I could die right now." The first time I fell in love with life, I felt the same. And I think it's counterintuitive a little, because we think the higher we are, the more the fall is going to hurt. But really, the happier I am, the more awake and alive and at peace I am, the more in love with life I am, the more everything feels doable. And I love that because she talks about that saying that we've all heard is like, "I'm the happiest I've ever been. I could die tomorrow and be satisfied." What if we were living in that sort of wholeness every day? Because there will come a time where we do face our death, and can we face it with, I could die right now, that sort of love for life. And everything feels doable in that space. And so I just thought that was so beautiful. And what I would like to ask the group, or also just to comment on your experience with the tea, with the breath work, with this discussion, with anything that's arising, but also could be holding us back from feeling more present in our lives. And some of these things could be that we're feeling a lot of stress. Some of these things could be that we don't feel deserving, or that it does feel scary to love life so much because it is temporary. And one day, even everything that we have right here is a temporary experience. And can we be with that somewhat intensity of living a life and honoring that there is an endpoint? So I think that's really all that I have to say at the moment. And I would like to open this up if anyone would like to speak. I know we have River and Cher on the line, also drinking tea and going through the practices with us.
Yeah, thank you, Kris, for leading the tea, the practice, and that beautiful discussion topic, because I feel like it brought up a lot in me, especially hearing that message after the practice, I think was even more powerful because the practice, I felt so, I felt like often people say that when you sigh, it's a sign. Well, not often, but I've heard that when you sigh, it means that you are generally dissatisfied or that you're releasing dissatisfaction or like that. That's a tendency if you sigh a lot. And it's funny because the reason why I think about this is because me and my mother have a tendency to sigh. And I feel like we also have a tendency to be melancholy and depressive. And as we were practicing, I noticed how the sigh felt like a release of grief. And that as I went through the practice, I felt lighter and lighter. And I could almost feel like I was like purging stuff. So it's like, as I was sighing, I was like, okay, clear the space because I feel like I'm emotionally dumping into this space right now. Yeah, exactly. I was like, because that's what it felt like. I feel like River was doing that too. He was like doing some shaman stuff over here, clearing the space too. So yeah, that felt one really powerful because it felt so clearing, so healing. And then hearing that, it almost like touched a really vulnerable part of me, like a reminder, even just a simple reminder that we expect the sun to come up every day or we expect to see the sunset, and that that's not true, and that embracing life actually makes it easier, but often it's the logical mind wants to fear good things because we think we'll lose them. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the breath work, I can't remember the last time I did that breath. It's been a long time probably, but it was really good to revisit, and it reminded me how potent that particular modality is. And I also was feeling a great purge, particularly like a lot of stress that maybe I wasn't aware of before. And I think it's part of like the double tap on the breath, like really gets into these kind of like nooks and crannies that maybe oxygen doesn't normally go into. And then so you get aware of like this tension in the body, or the breath, like you said, the body has its own hyper intelligence, kind of leads you where you need that extra little attention or healing. And that was really nice. That was really nice. And nothing like visual or visceral came up for me like emotionally, but like I just definitely felt a release. And yeah, just a friendly reminder, like, wow, the breath is so potent, especially in combination with the tea, the chi of the tea. The tea that we're drinking has this is eternal bliss. Yeah, it was really, really potent. And then going into the dialogue after the fact around death, or life and death, rather, just reminds me of a couple of themes, just the shedding process of, as we're on this process of personal self-development or spiritual evolution, like we're constantly adding, but we're also constantly shedding the past stories, ideas, concepts, belief, maybe these stresses, this anger, this grief that we're holding on to. And this process of bringing in the new, or making space for the new rather, would be ideally, because there was a quote that came up for me recently. It was like, wisdom is the accumulation of knowledge, or sorry, intellect is the accumulation of knowledge, but wisdom is the process of letting go and creating space. So I felt like that's really what was invited with this practice of bringing the breath in to create space, that spaciousness for your true self to kind of like be reborn in that moment. And I also felt the concept of, yeah, presence, being in the present moment and fully receptive to, like you said, that sun rising on the top of that beautiful mountain and that view that you must have experienced, and just like the sheer joy and bliss ecstasy of like being fully there. Why are you fully there? Why are you like, your attention is focused on that sun in that moment? Because the mind's not wandering to the past. The mind isn't wandering to the future. It's like right then and there in that present moment, fully receiving all of the information, from maybe the tactile, the feeling, just the moment of everyone's heart like cheering. Like, even though it was a short share, I felt like just because of the tea and the breath, it's like you get to go there pretty quickly. So it's a potent reminder, like how can you carry that level of immersion, almost like, I almost feel like presence is immersion in the moment, when you're speaking it to that. But also another thing came up for me. It's like when you're asking that question, like how can we bring this to every aspect of our life? And I felt like, well, if I give my all, if I immerse myself fully 111% in each and every moment, and I give my heart to every moment, I show up in the best way I can in each and every moment, to serve, for the greatest good of whatever could be. Like, how can we make this the best moment forever, in each and every moment? And that is, when you think about that, that's a very difficult practice. But like, let's say it's very easy when you're on the top of a mountain in Hawaii and the sun's coming up. I mean, it should be easy. Maybe some people weren't feeling the vibe there, but like, it sounds like, for a lot of people, that would be like a 99% chance, like jackpot. But like, can you also take that same practice when your partner or a parent or a friend or in your career, maybe is giving you a reflection that you're not so proud of, like, or giving you some feedback, or even they're angry at you, or you're feeling some energy that you're resistant to? Can you still show up in your best in that moment and give your all and be present versus going into fear, doubt, worry of what the future would be? And I feel like that is the practice of this tea. That's the practice of that breath. That's the practice of what you're kind of pointing to in your share. So that's what came up for me, and it was a really good reminder. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I don't know if anything comes up for you for that.
Yeah, thank you both for your reflections. And I find it interesting that, like, for you, share the breath brought up some grief too. But even being able to sit with that grief, there was an opening. And so I think, River, to your point as well, of like, how can we be so present with every moment, even when it might be one of the hardest moments of our lives? Because there is even like a gift of life in that, or like of death or of rebirth. There's something there to be witness to. And I think, in our culture, it's really easy to numb out or to miss those things, or to um, be distracted when something intense happens. And it can be intense joy or intense sadness. And either one can sometimes be very hard for us to hold, um, depending on where we're at in our practices too. And so the breath work that we were doing today, it not only helps to for you to hold more, just like capacity in your body, more air in your body, but also capacity to hold more of that charge that is life, that is the life force. And so I think all of us coming together and just speaking to the grief that we feel, or the joy that we feel, or, when you're doing these 40-day practices, every day that you show up is a different day of your life, and you'll be sitting with different, maybe big emotions, or maybe no, maybe you'll be super neutral one day too. It's every day is so different. And how do we ride the waves with ourselves and be present to what is? And all of these all of these practices offer that certain presence to kind of tune us back in. So I appreciate both of you so much and your reflections, and that we can all do this together because it's so much easier to do in community, even virtually. I love
Yeah,
seeing though, it's so nice.
I love that you shared it for the tea time today because I hadn't actually got a chance to try it out, even though it's a part of our 40-day challenge. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh, I'm definitely doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting it now and I'm leaving raving reviews. That's what I was thinking. Like I'm gonna post and tell everyone about how amazing this practice is. Get them on the bandwagon.
Yeah, the accountability piece is really important, like to help cultivate the habit. Because we were just saying earlier today, like how, it starts with a single thought. It's like, oh, I want to, improve, make the improvement. Oh, I want to try this practice. But then the thought leads to like the word, and the word leads to the action, and the action leads to repeated action, which leads to the habit, which leads to a lifestyle, which leads to the destination, the result of those practices, otherwise known as your destiny. So it's like you can shift your story as simply with, a simple practice, like even just drinking tea or doing this breath work and really committing to that and anchoring into that, which will change literally the way that you breathe, because you're shifting the pattern of your breath here to elongate it, which will naturally make you feel more at calm and more at ease and more at peace throughout your day. Like Kris was alluding to, you'll be able to have more capacity to hold space when those big emotions come, whether they're from you or from somebody else. So these are really simple practices, but they're very powerful if truly applied and, focused with intention to integrate into your daily life.
Yeah, especially on the note of elongating and taking in more life. I feel like that was so powerful for me, especially because I think when you have anxiety or resistance, or you're holding on to something that's taking up space in your body, then I notice that I am short of breath sometimes, or there's almost like this feeling like I'm hitting a wall when I'm trying to expand my lungs or my chest, which of course I know lungs is also grief. But this felt like it was stretching those muscles, like you said.
And one other thing too that Kris brought up was like the concept of death, and that life is temporary. Like I think when we have the opportunity to have that reminder, we're like, oh my gosh, we only have a limited amount of time. Like make the best use of your time in this life, like why not be the best version of yourself? Why not feel amazing in your body? Why not be aligned with more positive thoughts, words, emotions, and actions? Like, why not deserve, a life of peace, prosperity, and harmony with your friends, your family, and your community at large to the best of your ability? Because you obviously can't control anyone else, but at least you can show up as that sun, that light that shines within your family or community. And that's what always gets me. It's like, why not? Like, why not me? You look at other people, and it seems like they could be doing really well. At least they present themselves to be doing really well. But like, why not you? You could also be doing the exact same thing. You could have and it starts, for me, it starts with a daily practice that's the foundation for setting the tone for the rest of the day.
And I think just the last thing on that is the practice helped me with acknowledging and embracing that message of like, oh, death could happen any moment, or like life is so fleeting, because I will have those thoughts, but I might have them in bed at night and it will cause me anxiety and fear. But having it now after that kind of practice, and even just being held in like unity, I was able to take that in and it felt good. It felt beautiful versus scary.
Mhm.
Wow, that's so beautiful, y'all. Well, day one of the practice. Are you guys gonna keep going? Starting today? Cool. That's awesome. Well, this was so lovely. I appreciate you both so much. Thank you all to the community. If you're watching this replay, you are here in space and time with us. So pretty cool that we can share in this energy field with you. And we look forward to seeing you at our next tea time. Thank you so much.